Welcome back to Monkey Wrench's little basic tutorial for career mode in KSP 105. I've had a couple of people asking about some basic orbital mechanics questions. That this is going to be a brief moonshot tutorial, but we're going to use it to also go over some of the very basic orbital mechanics. We have an orbital spacewalk near the moon. We'll take that. We have science data from space around Kerbin. We can certainly pick that up on the way out. We have a rescue pseudo-Kerbin from the orbit, who's in orbit around the moon. Let's rescue her because that'll let us do some orbital mechanics quite easily. And while we're out there, we have a position a satellite in a polar orbit of the moon. This may turn this mission into something a little confusing, but let's take that. So we're going to head out to the moon, do a spacewalk, and in orbit around the moon. Do a little bit of science around Kerbin. We're going to rescue a Kerbal, who's trapped in orbit of the moon, and we're going to position a satellite in a polar orbit of the moon, all on one mission. That should... We actually have the money we need to upgrade the science facility right now, but we don't quite need to yet, but that should give us plenty to do that. We're going to need a rocket that's capable of doing a fairly serious amount of work. We're also going to need a rocket that allows us to bring back our rescued passenger. So the lander cans are 0.66 tons. Mark 1 command pod's 0.84. We could just stack 2 lander cans and send that to the moon. And in fact, I think that is what we will do. We will need a heat shield on that. And the assumption here is this is probably not going to be quite as stable as it could be on re-entry, but it does have 2 reaction wheels in it. We're going to definitely want battery power on it. Since we're going to have 2 Kerbals in this lander can, I'm actually going to use 2 of the radial mount chutes. I'm not mounting them radially. I'm mounting them on top to keep them out of the re-entry burn, just in case. And we'll go ahead and put 4 solar panels on it to keep our batteries charged. Since we are going to be trying to do some science out there, and we actually have some missions that require us to transmit it back, although frankly our satellite could do that. As a matter of fact, let's build all of that into the satellite. So that's our crew return piece. That's all there is to that. We are going to want to take a satellite with us. We don't have a small decoupler yet, which is kind of a shame because we're going to have to throw a much larger stack decoupler on here, which I really don't want to do, but that's what we've got. I don't know that I'm going to want to fire the engines of the satellite unit directly into our lander cans. So what we're going to do is build this upside down on top of the lander can. So there's an upside down probe core stuck on our lander can. We're going to want it to be able to maneuver. It doesn't necessarily have much capability for that, so we'll put a small reaction wheel on it. We will put a little fuel tank on it. Not the tiniest, because we're going to have to get that into a polar orbit. We sadly do not really have the engine we need. We don't have any of the really small engines open. So we're going to go ahead and use a Terrier, which is way more engine than we need on this mission. On the plus side, nobody says you have to run it full throttle. Now that contract, if I remember correctly, for some odd reason, this satellite needs to have a thermometer on it, which is fine. We're going to put a thermometer and we're going to put a barometer both on it. We're definitely going to put a radio antenna on it because that is going to be needed. We are additionally, it's going to have its own battery supply so that it can function once it's separated from the launch system here. And it's going to need its own solar panels. So, with a lot of futzing about, that horrible little thing is going to be our satellite. And we're going to throw all of its bits up at the very top of staging so we don't set it off by accident. And we're going to just call this Moon Mission Combined. So, for our crew, we just want Jeb, stack separator. So now we need to get all of this to the moon. So using your Kerbal engineer, make sure that you have it set to Kerbin, because we're going to want to check our delta V pretty carefully on this particular mission. And as a matter of fact, pushing as much weight as we're pushing, and we're going to have to do some maneuvers, no doubt, to rescue our lost astronaut. I'm going to put 2 medium-sized tanks on that with a Terrier. That gives us 2060 vacuum delta V. That should be enough. It's a little creepy not knowing where our rescued person is orbit-wise, but we'll see. It's showing a thrust-to-weight ratio. And let's explain this. TWR is your thrust-to-weight ratio. During takeoff on the surface, you want that to be about 1.3 to 1.5. We're showing a 0.86. Mind you, that is surface. It tops out as it's almost empty fuel at 172. In the atmosphere, 1800 delta V on that. And vacuum, 2199. So, if we get this high enough initially, that's not going to be an issue. And we have a badly designed rocket in every possible way. This is a terrible design. But that's fine. We'll see how it works. There's our horrifying spaceship. Yeah, and there's Suda's Hulk out at the moon. Lovely. We're going to focus view on the moon. Zoom in. She's in an equatorial orbit, and we need to put a satellite in a polar orbit. So this will be an excellent tutorial for orbital dynamics, assuming we can actually get anywhere with this rocket ship. So, we'll hit T to turn on SAS, Z to go to full fuel. We may have to end up modifying the burn on these SRBs, but let's try. We do have liftoff. Not very fast, but we are in fact going up, which is a bonus. Briefly turn off SAF to save power while we are in the shadow, and let's go to the moon. I'm going to be a horrible person and do physical time acceleration because this is a long burn. Physics warp is available by Alt greater than, Alt less than. It allows you up to a 4 times acceleration, even when you're under thrust. If you have a large ship, it can also tear it apart, so be conscious of that. Burning rather more fuel than I want to see us burn. I think I can see a cheap way to save us some fuel for the rest of this mission, which is going to be really necessary if we're going to succeed. Okay, ways to save us extra gas. We're going to need all the gas we can. This portion of the ship needs to do a rendezvous with our lost pilot at the moon, pick them up, do science around the moon, leave the moon's orbit. Well, it has to make orbit first and do all that. Then it has to leave orbit and re-enter at Kerbin. So this satellite has tons and tons and tons of delta V on its own. So let's go ahead and decouple that. Our main ship is gleefully on its way to the moon. Excellent. Hit the square bracket bar to switch ships. Now we're on board. Or not on board, we're controlling our probe, which for some reason doesn't appear to have. It's SAS capable. Oh, that's right, it's the basic probe core. Okay, this is going to be more interesting. So, now we're flying the probe. Why are we flying the probe? We're going to try to use the probe's own fuel to bring it into that polar orbit it needs at the moon. It's got tons of fuel. There's no reason we need to decelerate it out here when it can do that work itself. So focus view on the moon, zoom in. That orange line is our trajectory. You can take your maneuver node we've just made for this happy little probe, and we can start dragging things around out here. This is going to be a little tricky. We're going to be running 2 ships at once, which is kind of a recipe for disaster, but that just makes it more fun. So it's only got to do 1 burn. We are doing an attitude burn with this that's coming up in 38 seconds, as a matter of fact. Now, we're going to have to go back. I want to see where the satellite is. It's usually not recommended to be flying 2 ships at the same time that are going to have to be doing burns almost at the same moment. If nothing else, this does give you an idea of what you can do in KSP if you're feeling especially, self-punishing about the whole thing. Okay, good enough. We don't have to worry about that going anywhere. We've still got half a tank of fuel. Switch to the satellite. Magical, that's almost what we need. Almost. So we're going to want to fine-tune this. It's not going to give us a contract completion because we're not quite close enough. It's interesting. It looks like it's almost completing for us, but not quite. Okay, yes, we did that. We got some world firsts in that. So let's make our orbits match. Our periapsis is a little low, so at our apoapsis, we're going to add a maneuver. And that should bring us in line with the desired periapsis. Now all we have to do is fix our apoapsis, which is high. So at our periapsis, we'll add a maneuver. We're going to slow down just enough to bring us onto that line. Very nice. We're a little bit off laterally, but not much. I think it's just our gap on the apoapsis that's stopping us from completing. That should complete. Why are we not completing? Oh, there we go. Yay, it completed. Hooray, hooray. We have our satellite in polar orbit, which made us 89,000 funds and 9 science. Back in the manned version, or the manned mission, Kerbal mission, whatever it is, we need to save SUDA. So we're going to need to circularize, we're going to need to match the plane of her orbit with her, and then we're going to need to actually do an intercept. And you can tell you circularized when you've flipped your apoapsis and periapsis 90 degrees to where you've placed your maneuver node. So we know that's the right amount. That's going to be a burn of 63 delta V. Oh boy. So now it's going to be interesting. We're going to have to plot an intercept. We actually need to drop our, we're going to have to be closer to that orbit as well. We're going to want to plot an intercept with her, so, silly me. The reason I had stopped here is I need to match planes with her. So, at either the ascending or the descending node, either is going to be fine as we're more or less circularized. You're going to want to add a maneuver, and at that ascending or descending node, you're going to go the wrong way. You're going to tweak the node. Okay, there we go, yay. Again, it shifted the ascending and descending nodes to right angles to where we've placed our burn. So at that point, we should match orbits with, what's your name again? SUDA. SUDA in her Hulk. We'll quick save because why not? It is a 16 meter per second burn, so it's a very small burn. Thankfully, she was very close to being on the same equatorial orbit we were, so we're not wasting additional delta V there. Okay, we are, yeah, we're basically in the same plane now. So at our apoapsis where things are easy, we're going to burn retrograde, and we're going to bring our orbit. She's at a 9,000 by 12,000. Or you're in a terrible orbit, honey. What is the matter with you? She's barely not socking into the mountains of the moon every time she goes around. Okay, so we're going to bring our orbit in there. 48 delta V. We are just using delta V like it's free. Burn retrograde, slowing ourselves, bringing our orbit in to just outside her incredibly eccentric piece of crap orbit. The purple indicators show the next pass of your two craft. The orange ones show the subsequent pass, so you can actually see where they'll be next time. Right, so 2 synchronizing orbits later, we have a separation showing of 11.6 kilometers, so That's actually brilliant as is. Let's try to make that more brilliant. All I'm doing is applying a little retrograde thrust here to slow us down, so we're dropping towards Suda's orbit. And I'm watching where our little red buggers are. If I could see for all the crap that's on the screen. Separation 5.6 kilometers, that's still a fair ways away. Separation 2.5. Separation 4.9, it just got worse. Separation 2.6, what if we push that? Separation 0.8 kilometers, okay, we can... Separation 0.2 kilometers, okay. Brilliant. So we should be able to drop into that orbit and be close enough that Suda, who I'm hoping has a rocket pack so she can fly over, can be picked up. So we are going to do a little tiny burn of 8 meters per second. And it needs to be pretty freaking precise, so... We look back behind us, yeah, we can see her. There she is. So now we have a target and anti-target node. That's going to be very important because what we're going to do is at our closest approach we're going to match velocities. We are also going to worry about our delta V, which is pretty terrible, but that's okay. So your targeting and your target and anti-target nodes are going to be pink. That's your target node. It's got the ring around it. Right now we're pointed at that ship, which indeed we are. We don't want to be pointed at that ship. We want to be pointed dead away from it because we are right now approaching it at 46.5 meters per second, more or less. And this is the messy way to match. But I don't feel like trying to do it the complex way without having my pilot's not very skilled, in fairness. So we're at 16.6 kilometers and closing. So let's go ahead and F5. And let's speed up time, because otherwise this is going to take forever. We actually are going to want to be, I just realized I don't want to be on my anti-target node yet because we haven't matched velocities. I want to be on my retrograde, which are going to be close to the same thing as we reach our nearest point in any case. And you'll notice that our apparent speed relative to the target is decreasing. We're down to 19 meters per second. That means we're reaching our closest approach, and we're going to yep, and we're actually we're not at our closest. We're at our fake. We're at our next orbit intercept, it looks like. Oh, we're not. We're actually not even close to it. Fascinating. It's faking me out. So we'll see if it plays ball here. Yeah, it will. We're going to actually zoom past that. And we're going to use this upcoming one. Oh, in the dark. That'll make this ever so much more difficult. Great. Where are you? Oh, there you are. So 2 kilometers, we are showing 7.5 meters per second, 7.4. facing retrograde. Let's bring that to 0. Or 0.1, good enough. Then we're going to point ourselves directly at the target. And we're going to burn until we're approaching at not a tremendous speed. Especially since we don't have much fuel, we'll just coast at 4.6 meters. We will flip around retrograde because we're going to brake again and match velocities. It is very important you're in target mode when you are doing this so that your nav ball is actually showing you the correct information. As soon as Hulk is 2 kilometers off, we will accelerate time as we go into the dark side of the planet where we can't see anything. You know what? We could fart around back and forth forever doing this. Let's just get her over here. Come here, Suda. You've got RCS thrusters on that suit. Get out here and do some work. Turn your lights on. Let go. Instead of making Jeb do all the work, you can get your lazy butt over here on your own. I can't remember which lander can Jeb's on. That one's full. Okay, so it's obviously the bottom one is open, or technically the top one. Yay, rescue accomplished. Wonderful. So we've done that, we have the only, we have nothing else. Oh, that counted as to go on an orbital spacewalk near the moon. Good. So we just need to recover her on Kerbin to make this a resounding success. Wave goodbye to the moon, where our satellite is in place. Our science is done. Our spacewalk has been done. We have rescued the lost Kerbal. It's been a busy day. We got lucky in letting the satellite orbit itself, separating basically right after launch. We saved enough fuel that we are in good shape. We didn't have to do a whole lot of messing around to get a rendezvous either, which is important. That could have gone badly. Okay, 35,000 meters should be dandy. And we will separate from our now useless engine stage, which didn't appear to want to separate. There, go away, engine stage. I am a little worried about our parachute. We have a decoupler sitting on top of it that never ejected properly. So all of this may have been in vain. We do have sufficient electrical power to just go ahead and leave SAS holding us retrograde, which is convenient. If worse comes to worse, I think we can probably manually trigger the chute. We'll find out. If not, this entire mission will be scrubbed because I wasn't smart enough to put that decoupler on the other way around, so it would have stayed on the satellite, which would have hurt nothing. And yay, we're exiting shock heating. Now all we have to worry about is parachutes opening. There. And recover vessel. Now, despite the cost of our rocket, which was actually a pretty cheap sheets rocket, we picked up 115 science. We picked up another little bit of change while we were out there. Most importantly, though, oh yeah, that's nice. Suda Kerbin has advanced to level 1. We'll need to see what Suda is. If she's a pilot, that's actually wonderful. Suda Kerbin is a scientist. Oh, better yet, she's something we haven't leveled. We have a level 1 scientist, thanks to that rescue mission. So, yay, that's all good. Most importantly, though, we have 1 million in funds and 115 in science. We're definitely going to want, as quickly as possible, to pick up advanced exploration. But we do need a little more flexibility with the rockets. That one was pushing the limits of what we could do with the tech we had. Something that would really help is fuel lines. That'll allow for some asparagus staging. We won't have to have such ridiculously long, difficult to turn rockets. We can actually make them a little more balanced. Not to say that you can make short, stubby conglomerations like you used to in the old days. Optionally, we could just go for the heavy rockets and get some giant engines, but the fuel tanks that we need are actually in here. So, all in all, I think we're best off to get especially with the extended standard tank, the FLT800 fuel tank that's in here, and the external fuel duct. So we will go ahead and get fuel systems. So now we have all sorts of fun options with fuel. Our next buy is going to be, almost certainly we're going to do advanced exploration, both for the better ladders, which we'll need, and for the mobile processing lab, which we're going to want to put Suda in actually to make a bunch of science. Now that she's level 1, she's the perfect person to go. That being the case, we're actually in a position now where our next mission is going to crack the science barrier for us pretty firmly. That being the case, we'll check a level. We have the VAB upgraded a level. We have the launch pad upgraded a level. We have mission control upgraded a level. We have the astronaut complex upgraded a level. That's why we can do EVAs now and plant flags. Of that 1 million funds we have, we're going to go ahead and upgrade R&D. That's going to allow us to do the really important thing, which is our research science limit is now 500. That's going to keep us going for ages and ages and ages. Technically, that's going to get us all the way out to the next to last tier. I mean, we can get NERVAs with that upgrade, which means we can go anywhere in the system. So, that's a good spot to leave it. Again, that was a case of picking contracts wisely. They were all moon contracts. Some were more difficult than others. They were all doable with a little creativity. You can combine a mission to rescue someone with a mission to do your spacewalk, with a mission to put a satellite in polar orbit, and it makes a ton of money. We've got plenty of money now to actually do a manned, but we can actually, let's check just in case. What we'd really like to have, and we don't, we've got another couple of rescues. Aldous Kerbin is in an orbit of Kerbin. While I may do that off camera, what we're going to want to do is they're not probably going to offer us anything at Minmus until we go to Minmus. And Minmus is far easier to land on than the moon, frankly. and it's far easier to do a science crusade on. So this next episode, what we'll do is, with all this fabulous money we have, we'll mount our own fully KSP funded mission to Minmus. In between tutorials, I may do a couple of these just to pad the wallet. I'll probably go rescue Aldous Kerbin from orbit, because who knows, maybe he is something useful. It doesn't actually say what he is. He could be anything, but we'll find out. So that's it for this go round. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you've learned something, and have a great evening. And don't blow up any more than you really have to. Thanks much. Bye bye.